Hey everybody, Everett's live music. Doing a follow-up shout out on that storm, man, that was supposed to roll through here. We were supposed to get a hurricane. Today's the 22nd, so we're moving, I think, pretty much past it. Southwest coast got some record fall rain and stuff at times. Pretty wild. We didn't get really anything but that ring around the sun, because I had mentioned a ring around the moon one time. Lo and behold, it was like a day or so later, and there's a ring around the sun, and I'm like, I don't know nothing about that one, because I haven't read enough in my days about weather. I study water pretty much, but the cool part about some of it is, man, like I said before, is it spills over into other subjects if you take your time and want to learn about it. I wonder how many people want to learn about things and stuff as the ways of our lives start to change. You know, I mentioned so many things along the path, so many things I would hope to get a hit back on, you know, just maybe someday here that'll the channel will break loose, so there'll be some record of this, and then the music that follows with a lot of it, because, you know, just an idea of trying to change a way of life. I think for the most part, I mean, look at us, for where we are now isn't that far from where we were so long ago, medieval and before, maybe even. I don't study like the beginning of it all, but we are still that kind of people that has hierarchy throughout our society, pretty much measured by money, which they'll tell you you're going to need knowledge and skills to get to that point. You can't argue with some of it. I was asking bankers today, how do you feel about it? They're like, yeah, I think we might be going someday. And is it better to keep the people? But what's the plan? I don't hear a lot about that. What's your plan to do with us? I would say to people, like, I mean, learn skills as much as you can. I think it's kind of fun. I've never really shied away from that in life. I've learned quite a bit through my days. I try. I like that. I don't think it fits everybody that way. But I don't like the I can't, I won't do, or I just don't understand anything about it. You know, if you're doing calculus or something, yeah, maybe that's gone too far. I can do some advanced algebra, and I am a modest person. I'm humble. I try to be, at least. I think I am. And I'm not overly... I just don't find the purpose in being the best at... I've reached at that point where there's just... Some of us are there, man, with some of it. It's important to know it and share with those of us around us, and you know, to think about a different tomorrow, you know, because you can't help but think that it's going that direction, especially for the United States, for one, you know, where I live and stuff, you know. So I just don't understand the math through it all, through all the years of doing life. What is your like goal? What is your purpose? It seems like just to make more money and develop more property and take more life in the process that was once alive on the planet. We don't have that harmonious balance of us, because there's more and more and more, and it seems like that's the only thing that feeds something. I mentioned before too about trying to slow down. I'm not beholding to any religions, but I will say this for the monks and those that have held true to a way of life that is not holding to monetary pleasures and different things. That's the balance. But when you've unbalanced for so long, it's going to be hard to get back to the balance. I would think, one degree or another. That's got to be somewhat of an idea. And if you know money's caused all the trouble through all the years, but you hold to it so dearly because it holds on to that old way of... I mean, it is. It's the strong survive, and, there is no other way if you go far enough back, right? I mean, that's the only ones that we're going to live through any of it. Either you live or you die through battle, and, I mean, we've been It's so amazing to see that, right? If you just take a moment, dude, and look at history, look at us, man. I brought up some episodes for water the other day and outbreaks and different things due to failed design and engineering designs from perhaps a water plant and for a well. One was at that Walker, Ontario. That was a well that was infected from the runoff from a farm, and then I think that was what mainly was blamed for it. Other factors, but the main factor is your well wasn't capped properly, because if you would have put the clay and you would have understood, because as the water hits clay, the clay swells and it doesn't hold water, it repels water. And your well cap always has to be raised. And then when you go into Milwaukee for the 400,000 people that were infected, and thousands died. I think it was thousands, like plural. I don't have the numbers. I don't study those numbers. And they blame some of it on just like a lot of people were old. They were older or at health risk or something. It happens quite often. We see it through the pandemic, and I mean, look at the Flint, Michigan, and the lead. They abandoned lines up there, right? They were on Detroit's city water at one time, and a smaller portion of that area I'm not familiar with at all, but they decided to abandon the feed from Detroit's water, right? The Detroit River, I think, is what it is. I might have that. This is off firing from the hip, but I think it was they were already being fed from that source, and everything was cool. But then they said no, due to costs, we can save money if we jump over to the Flint River, which apparently not enough studies were done, and people, they suffered through the excess of lead in the water. I don't know the figures, and I don't know what the long-term effects will be, but we just know that lead is very bad. I've mentioned it in another one, I believe, before, but if not, it's there with the kidney damage and brain damage, especially for the young being born and stuff. So many times we're wrong. That's like modern day, man. And we're still wrong. So it's very important to see that. I mean, back in the 60s and 50s, Cuyahoga Falls, man. The river, there's a river up in Ohio, dude. They got pictures of it. It caught on fire. It was like the whole river. The whole river's in flames. Because they're dumping so much stuff into the water. This isn't that long ago, man. And I like I've said before, man, it's not about blaming a person. At one point or another, there is someone, and then there's other people, so we all got to keep ourselves well informed. That is a part of my conversations always, is the more well informed we are about what's happening. I grew up in the Love Canal area back east, so that was a terrible one too, man. Check it out, dude. They were dumping frickin' barrels and barrels and barrels of toxic waste, into the canal system, and the canal systems are amazing. They're something to see, and then just to know it's a real I think that one would humble anybody that would ever argue with me. We're not young. You are so young. So that's those are small pieces of it, and looking at that. And things that have come to pass before our very eyes, and what we face for our future and stuff. as we behold to the dollar. Does anybody look at society? And I talk about it quite a bit. Just, you don't even have to be like a mathematician. It's not calculus, man. It's basic addition and subtraction, some multiplication and division, to find out the reproductive rates, the amount of land that's being taken, how many species are dying, and to just be like, well, what do you want me to do? I have to, because we behold to it all, man. As we move forward, I would think about, like, it'd be really important to make sure you're never beholding just to a device in your hand for knowledge, for intelligence, for a way of life. We should know blood pressure's 80 over 120 is your best, you know. If you can feel the pulse in the wrist, they probably have decent blood pressure at that moment. Little things. Squeeze the skin. Little things. I mean, we don't have to be the guy that saves the day, but there's some of us that have, I mean, without it, I want to be part of my people. And I'm not running in there to save the day every day. Nope. There's people for that, but if you study water and something ever happens, you're going to be a valuable resource in understanding valves and different apparatuses that support the water system. And it's the veins of our society. It's like where the blood runs through us. So you find stuff like that, and then maybe touch off, and it branches off, and you can easily find yourself in the soil because of siltation rates and runoffs and different things that are contributing. And you find yourself bouncing off into a electrician, because electricity is analogous at one degree or another. So they kind of, if you look at it one way or another, they are like one another. It's not the same at all, but they do share some qualities and some principles of how it happens that you can, it helps you just move through it, you know. If you talk about like GPMs, gallons per minute, you're going to be talking then about amps that are running through. And if you talk about PSI for water, you'd be talking about voltage, so your voltage, that runs through for electricity. And there's a lot of stuff, and it's really interesting, and we need to stay with that and feed our minds and find a place with that. Like, I play my music and stuff too, man, and then when we're entertaining one another and we're believing that, I've said it a few times, man, through the pandemic and everything happened, we were so in a hurry to get back to where we are now. And it's weird to me that we're not. One thing you would have to realize is nothing. We were okay. There was a lot of panic, man. If you felt yourself in a lot of panic and stuff, and I'm not certain how to describe it, but for some it was probably worse than others with landlords or whoever else is just, they've held tight to that dollar their whole life, and there's nothing else that exists. But for the most part, we were okay, right? We didn't stop I think we failed in that part because we're scared. We're scared of something fake. A dollar, dude. It's just what's been imprinted on us forever. From the back in the day, I'm going to say it again, for those, the warlords and whatever, whoever was strongest won, right? And they controlled whatever everybody did. They told everyone what to do, because either you're going to do what you're going to be told to do, or we will end you. And everything you own and everything around here belongs to me now, and you will work for me. So we're not that far from that, I feel to myself. We're still a lot more civilized now. It's not quite the barbaric way, and the hard line of to the victor go the spoils. All these things are meaningless to me in the way that it is. In the way that we've come to be with one another at one level or another in different places on the planet. I try to stay here and try to stay hip to what's going on closest to me, man. I take Spanish for something to do. I don't use my phone for much for that except for watching YouTube, and I do some other stuff, but not a whole lot. And that's where I'm at, and I'm trying to hold true to that, and then be brave and in the idea of we can change the way we do stuff. We have to be willing in our heads and our minds, man, to start. It's okay. I say it sometimes to people, and they're like, whoa, because they're like, how you been doing? I'm doing okay. Business is really good. I got a few jobs today. That's really good, man. Good. Money. More money, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's good. And sometimes I'm like, it's a funny thing, and I'll even ask them, we behold to this thing like, like that's all there is. There's more to us, man. We would actually take care of one another, I believe. I would hope. Maybe not. Because as it gets more filled up, the whole planet, right? We are going to miss our chance at that. Because now there's too many. It's indescribable to me. I'm like, man, I just don't understand what you're doing. Like, I do, but I don't. I mean, I'm not lost in the way of society, and I pay my bills, I do my taxes. It's kind of funny, man. I run my own business, construction. I'm licensed and bonded, insured. And I try to follow the book, and the book is kind of, if you follow the book, dude, you're going to be a little poorer, but I do it. I don't know why. There's just me. So, some places they're definitely going to watch one another's back, and if you're in those fields, you'll check once in a while on something I would think, but as a skilled labor person, I'm a necessity. I have learned in life something. Not only that, at times I've learned how to CPR and all that stuff, and I study some of that still. I try to keep up on what I can. I think it's very good for us. It's very healthy to brush up on all of that. Learn it, know it, remind yourself at times, and I think it's so good. It's good for like what the future might hold for it. Just a life of understanding and a need to learn. There's so much. To me, I would think there's like so many lifetimes. Every life has so many lifetimes. Every new life has so many lifetimes still to learn about this planet. How to get back to being a part of it instead of something that's really determined to decide for the planet. I don't know how that's going to work out in the end. I think very bad for a lot of species and stuff. But anyways, there's so much that could be talked about and stuff. I know the other day I was talking about the one weather patterns, right? And the one's up here, right? And then the other one's down here, and I could actually see it. And the one's going so much faster, right? And or so it'd be like they were actually both going the same way, and then this one's here is like this. And you watch the two layers of cloud. I said two systems, and just stuff to see, and then to learn how does a hot air balloon work when it gets up there? I mean, what's it going to do? I mean, how's it going to steer? What's it going to... You find out, dude, at different elevations, well, there's different directions of the wind at times and different, so you're up at one spot, so one's going one way and then down the other. And I don't think it's a perfect... I've never done the balloon, but it's interesting to me, and I like all the things, man. I'll tell you, with no motors... digging your hands in the soil and stuff. I grew up in a family, dude, that canned. We had a huge garden, man. A big one, dude. You didn't buy vegetables. And you stuffed your freezer with venison. And I don't know as though it has to be that way for everyone, but to not know it and to not ever experienced it, and then to meet somebody that has, they have a different feeling most of the time than I've found out in my travels. And we are just what we are we're products of our own environment. In the inner city, man, I've been to a petting zoo, ran a petting zoo, right? And big dude, man, standing there with me, and he's at the little fence that's only just above your knee, you know? And there's a sheep, and he won't pet the sheep. Dude's, he's a couple 100 pounds. He's every bit as big as me. I'm not touching that thing. It might bite me. You just haven't, been around. It's all right. I don't know if it needs to change or how it would change. You can get somebody on the other side. What are you going to have? Goats running through the street and cows mooing up and down, in traffic? Cattle crossing in the middle of, Las Vegas Boulevard. Traffic is backed up for hours. No, you know what I mean. And how do we level that all out, man? Because I think maybe you can do better numbers than me, but the numbers I'm finding from 20 years ago, right? They're not matching with the numbers that are actually happening. We're going faster. I'm pretty sure on some of it, but I don't have big books, huge ones. I mean, just get a simple kid's book, dude. On the Encyclopedia of the Planet or something. Like a grade school. There's so much in it. Just to bring us all into a better line of sight for this and what we are. Those cycles I speak of, the carbon and nitrogen cycles, and then what's in the soil, and the silts, and the sand, and the clay, and you're like, well, there's more than that, there's bigger rocks. Yeah, they're gravel. It's all sand, man. I'm talking rocks. No matter what size of the aggregate, the fancy word for the size, let's not trip one another out, but those are cool words to use. When you're in the field, man, you better know them. But different sizes of aggregate, and the silts are just the finest. And when I start talking about like atoms or something, or molecules, and I'm not always the scientist on it, but I like thinking about it, and you're like, yeah, that's way too small for me. Catch the light one time, dude, coming through the window, right? And as it's spilling through the window and you catch it at the right angle, you can see so much dust. Now you have a little idea of what an atom would look like, because you don't normally see any of that. And then be reminded, too, that's your particulate matter that's in the air at the moment, and too much of it's bad. If you work in concrete, dude, the concrete dust is one of the worst. You want water on it. It's bad to inhale it. And then there's asbestos concrete and different stuff, and it's better to know than to not. So much to learn, so much to spend our time on in a healthy way if we keep going with these devices, and just trying to share. Because it's possible, I think, to change. We don't have to keep going this way. That's what I think about, like, when the pandemic hit, dude. Here's a chance to slow down. Just stop. Stop. No, I'm going to go buy a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch. They gave me a grip of cash, and... Okay. All right. Because someone's probably going to want the money from you later or something, but so many of us abused. I didn't take any money because my job. I'm a necessity. So I got nothing. $0 through it all. I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I'm happy that I know what I know. And if anything ever came to be, man, I would be very much so an advantage for anybody to be with. when it comes to a lot of that stuff, it's very important to know, I think, for all of us. And we don't have to be city people. We don't have to be this or that. Just the best you can be, man. And the more you touch on, and you don't try to say you know it all, and we let our specialists have their moment too. And I just dig it all, man. I dig life like that. I imagine it being like that sometime, Just enjoying one another like we can. Late.